Welcome to Blueprint Boost for Contractors, the podcast that's your go-to source for unlocking the secrets to successful marketing, gaining valuable insights, and growing your contracting business with less stress. Your host is David Brooks, and he's thrilled to be your guide on this journey. As a seasoned expert in the contracting industry, David understands the challenges you face. That's why each episode is crafted to provide you with actionable strategies and proven blueprints to boost your business to new heights.
Hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the latest episode of the podcast. I'm your host, David Brooks, powered by Contractor Rhino. We have a special guest with us for this episode, and I'll allow him to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Landon Rasmussen. I have an excavation business that we've named BEHR Excavation. BEHR is BEHR. It's an acronym. So, yeah, that's
Great to have you, Landon.
yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Could you tell us a little bit about the name and how it came about?
Well, I have three daughters. My oldest is 7 and my youngest is 4, so they're all really close in age. And when I started the business, I was kind of doing stuff on the side, and I didn't really have a business name. I was kind of doing some small homeowner projects, and my wife came up with the name. My daughter's names are Bellamy, Emery, and Harper, so BEH, and then my last name Rasmussen, BEHR. This is how we came up with the name. So yeah, that's how we did it. It was kind of a cool thing. My wife came up with it. So yeah, people
Nice.
seem to like it.
Yeah, nice way to put it together and have your daughters inspire that part.
Yeah, honestly, like when days are kind of tough, I think about that, and I'm like, I'm not really out here for me. I'm out here for them. So it helps me. I mean, it sounds a little cheesy, but it can kind of help me keep things in perspective and keep going.
No, that's
So
good. Family's a good motivation.
yeah, for sure.
Now what made you want to start your business? Like, how did that come about?
Um, I actually started my business kind of on accident. So my I grew up doing excavation work. My father owns an excavation business. My grandfather started it in the mid 70s. My grandfather passed away in 1998, so he's been gone for a while now. And my dad has been running the business, and he's got a couple. They started some rental stores. Um, right now, there's 4 of them in upstate New York, which is where I'm located, kind of in the Syracuse area of upstate New York. And I was working in the rental stores. I was making deliveries, working on machines in the shop, and had a customer come in, and he was asking about a piece of equipment, an excavator, like a mini excavator. He was asking me questions that uh, I could tell he had no idea what he was doing. So sometimes you kind of got to let customers do that. So I brought him the machine. I was showing him the controls, and I was like, I could tell that he just was not going to do a good job with whatever it is that he was doing. He had no idea what he was doing. So I was like, what are you trying to do? Let me see if I can help you, because I've done this stuff, working on my dad's excavation crew. So I walked around with him. He showed me the job, and I was like, man, I can do this. Like, I can do this job for you. So he was like, really? He's like, well, when could you do it? And this was like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, I could probably do it this weekend. So he was like, well, could you give me a price on it? And I'm like, whoa, man, I've never done that. I have no idea how to give somebody a price on a job. I'd never done it before. So I was like, okay. So I sat back in the truck, and I came up with a price for this guy. It was like 2,500 bucks. It was frankly, it was not enough money. It should have been more, but that's what you do on your first job is you make a mistake with the bid. I think that's probably what most people do. And he was like, you think you can do it? And I was like, yeah, I can do it. So that weekend I did the job for him. He was trying to sell his house, and his real estate agent told him that he needed to have some drainage put in around his house. He had a gravel driveway, and the driveway was washing out, and he needed to get the water out of his driveway. And that he shouldn't list the house until it was sold, or not. We shouldn't list the house until the work had been done. So he had actually bought a house in Texas, thinking that he would have this house sold by now, and he hadn't. And so he's paying two mortgages, and he's got to sell this house, and he can't get a contractor in because everyone's busy and whatever, and little jobs are a lot of guys don't want them. And he I basically solved a big problem for him by getting in there, getting it done, and he listed the house and he sold it. Like he sold it pretty quick. He was super happy. And I used my dad's machines. I rented them from him. I didn't, he gave me a discount on them because, I was his kid, but he gave me a discount. I did the jobs with the machines, and I made some money. Thankfully my dad gave me a discount, or else I probably wouldn't have made a whole lot. But I got done and I was like, I don't remember how much I made. I probably made like 500 bucks. I was like, I made 500 bucks in like a day and a half. Like, I'm pretty sure I ought to keep trying to do this. So I just kept kept doing kept doing jobs. I had a little Craigslist ad. Uh, I don't think people use Craigslist too much anymore, but I had a Craigslist ad up, and I would just have people call me or text me or email me, and I'd go look at their jobs and give them prices. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I was cheaper than everybody else. And I kind of kept renting my dad's machines from him, and going around and doing these little jobs on nights and weekends. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then I went to my dad and I was like, I think that I need to do this full time because I've got enough work, and frankly I'm making more money, and my family is getting bigger, and I need more money because of my family growing. And so yeah, I kind of started my business on accident. So that's pretty much the story of how it got started.
So by accident, this all came about.
Yeah, I mean, really, had no intention that first. I was trying to help the guy out. It's like I said, I could tell he had no idea what he was doing, and I was like, man, I know how to do this, and I did it, and it turned out good, and he was happy, and I was like, dang, I made a decent amount of money on this for a day and a half's worth of work, and it just kind of snowballed, really.
That's nice. Is sometimes you just stumble across things like that. You just kind of, hey, it wasn't my intention, but I'm here now.
Yeah, I don't recommend doing it that way necessarily, though. I don't know. I think if you are going to start a business, I think you need to make sure that you've got yourself. Well, I don't know. I've had other people ask me, how do I know when to start my own business? And I tell them, like, you need to make sure you can completely replace your income, first of all. Like, if you're making, I don't know, 50, 60, $70,000 a year working for whoever you're working for, you need to make sure that you can completely replace that income at the minimum, or else you need to carry on doing the job and then doing this other stuff on the side until you can get to a point where it makes financial sense to basically quit your job and start your own business. But
Yeah, I think you have to really be strategic about it, and making sure that, like they say, all your ducks are in a row, and that you have a plan to switch over. If you have your business that you're doing on the side, and you may have your regular 9 to 5 at that particular moment in time. And you just want to be strategic about it. You don't want to jump the gun too early, and you really want to plan things out if you can.
Yeah, let the business grow on its own. I don't know. I don't think you need to force the growth. I think that if you're doing quality work, uh well, I tell people being a contractor is easy. You have to do what you say you're going to do, and you have to answer your phone. If you can do those two things, you can start a contracting business. You need to know what you're doing first of all, but if you do what you say you're going to do and you answer your phone, then you can start a contracting company. Like there's the barrier to entry is pretty low as far as that goes. Now, getting consistent work is different, and making sure that you can, replace your income is, you got to work towards that. But um, yeah, like I said, I mean, I just kind of started my business on accident.
So now that you've started this business by accident, and been in business a few years now, looking back, like what are some of the key milestones that have helped shape the business?
Oh, milestones that have helped shape the business. Well, uh, what are some key milestones that have helped shape the business? I think, I think, I think having my daughters and having that in my mind all the time when I'm working has helped me make decisions for the business. Um, there's that, and there's there's that, and there's opportunity. Like you see things, and you're like, well, if we could do this, then we could make a little bit more money doing it. Um, we had an opportunity where we worked for this landscaping company, and they sub us out for a bunch of little projects they have us do, and they have lots of topsoil that they dig out from like doing patios and walkways and stuff, and they've brought it back and they've got it all piled up. And I was talking to the owner, and I'm like, what do you guys do with this stuff? And they're like, nothing. I was like, what if could we buy a little screener, and like we'll screen the topsoil and we'll split the money with you? Like if you just if you get the topsoil here and we screen it, and then you can basically we can sell you the topsoil for cheaper than other company, like than you would be buying it, from a supplier. Um, and so that's just kind of chasing opportunities as they arrive. This last year, we were doing a commercial project, a pretty big by our standards commercial project. Um, and I was at Cat. We buy Cat equipment, and I was at my dealership, and I was driving around, and I saw a dozer that I knew was used, and I actually knew the guy who owned it before, and I knew that he had traded it in, and I knew it was a nice dozer. And I texted my salesman, and I was like, "How much for this dozer?" And he gave me a price on it, and I was like, "How about 75% of what the number you just gave me?" And he was like, "Is that an offer?" And I was like, yes. I was, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, what do you think? And he was like, if you want to pay that, then we have a deal. And I was like, oh man, I'm not actually dozer shopping. I'm just up here getting parts, and I'm driving around in the yard trying to just looking at equipment because I like equipment. And we ended up buying the dozer. Um, so just kind of jumping at opportunities when they arrive. And you know, I like to say that you aren't really lucky. Um, Luck is a combination of opportunity and being prepared. So if you have an opportunity and you're prepared to take advantage of the opportunity, that's when you get lucky. It's you don't get luck. Luck doesn't happen to people who aren't prepared. If if you're into real estate, and an opportunity pops up and you don't have financing in order, then you can't get lucky. It's like that with a job or whatever. So that's kind of how I try to look at things. It's like I want to be prepared for opportunities that pop up, and I would say that that's probably how a lot of what has kind of shaped. our business, I guess, in the last few years.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like, being able to take those experiences and the funniest story with the dealer. That's funny. Looking back on, sometimes you go down a path and you're like not expected to get there, go there.
Yeah, yeah, we were renting a dozer with GPS on it, and it was very expensive. It was like $8,500 a month for renting the dozer and the GPS, and we needed it on this site for quite a while. And I was like, I had the money figured into the bid, so it wasn't really a big deal. But once I saw that, I was like, man, if we could get that thing, like, I mean, the payment on it is like less than half of what the rent was. And I was like, if we can get this thing, then I've basically, this job will pay for like half of this machine. And that's basically what's happened. So it's worked out good.
Well, that's good that it's been able to work out, and you've been able to, take your experiences. And I love what you said. We said you baked it into the bid, and that's like a key and crucial part too of, being able for to be successful, in the go along in the journey is baking the right things into your bid.
Yeah. Yeah, we have uh I am not that good at commercial bidding. Let me say that. And I think part of what's helped our business grow a little bit is I think people need to know what they're good at and know what they're not good at. And I am not very good at commercial bidding. I We won this job, it was for a Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealership in a kind of a neighboring city, and we didn't bid it high enough. We didn't bid it high enough, and but we learned a lot, and we just got finished up with it. We're not well. We've got a little bit more to do, but it's kind of like little punch list stuff that'll take a couple of days to do. But we've done 99% of the job. We've completed, and yeah, the stuff was baked into the bid, but there was a lot of things that we came up against uh, that we didn't have planned, and it cost us a lot of money and a lot of time. And one of the things, like I said, that I'm not good at is commercial bidding. So we've actually recently hired um, a company to help us with that, and they specialize in heavy civil, like earthwork estimating. And they've, it's expensive. The what we pay them is expensive. The service they provide for us, but it's expensive to win jobs that you underbid, or to be spending a lot of time bidding jobs that you're losing because you don't know exactly what you're doing. So if I guess my advice would be, know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. And sometimes it takes a long time to figure out what you're not good at. When you're sitting there looking at a set of plans and it's like, well, we can do all this, why can't we do this? You look down through and you're like, yeah, well, I basically know what that's going to be and what that's going to be. And then when you get out there and you're doing the work, you're like, man, this is not the job we bought. The bid, we weren't planning on all this. And then you just gotta figure it out and keep the job going, and again, learn what you're good at and learn what you're not good at, and what you're not good at, find somebody who is. And so that's one thing that we've done as well, is hiring a, it sounds kind of sounds kind of hokey, hiring an estimating company, but uh there was a lot of legwork that went into giving them a lot of information about financials and our equipment and our overhead and insurance and payments and wages for the guys and all that stuff. And it's yeah, it's been quite a process getting all that set up with them, but we've we're finally in a groove with them, and it's working out good. So
And that's good. Like it's I'm glad you were able to identify that aspect because everything in business you're not going to be a rock star at, right? It's
No,
just
like most things you suck at.
yeah.
Like I didn't get into excavating or contracting because I like the business of it. I like equipment.
Yeah.
I like running excavators and dozers and that's what I like, being in the field doing the work. I I I don't know how good of a business owner I really am. I work hard. I know that. I've worked owning a business is like the hardest thing I've ever done. Um, and I have 3 kids. I would say that owning my business is probably harder than being a parent, at least for me. It helps that I have a good wife, so that she she does a lot of stuff and deals with me working late and that. But yeah, yeah,
No, like you do it, for providing a better opportunity for yourself, for your family, and like you say, you're gonna suck at most of it. Like you didn't go to school and get training, to be in the executive inside of your business, right? You really got into it because the love of doing the work and going out and being that person. And then as you transition from out in the field into the office, now it's a different aspect and different side of the business that definitely shifts your focus and your mindset and get you exposed to things that you're like, I have no clue what this stuff means.
yeah, yeah. I have a friend who I've made recently, and he's a local guy, but I met him on Instagram actually. But his business is maybe like 30 minutes away. Like his shop is maybe 30 minutes away from where we are. And I see some of his posts on Instagram, and he's like, "Man, I want to have a big enough business where I can be in an excavator all day, every day." And I'm like, dude, I think that the bigger you get, the less you're going to be in the seat of an excavator. Like, I know you like running equipment, but like the bigger you get, you're not going to be able to spend as much time doing the thing that you want to do because you're too busy running the business side of things. And, like I said, I started mine on accident. I like equipment, I like running equipment. And then, as you grow, it's like, wow, that's actually more. My time is better spent doing other stuff aside from being in a piece of equipment. And that as a business owner, I think is kind of hard to come to terms with because I mean, I remember when I was working with my dad. I mean, he'd get a phone call, he'd be in the excavator, and we would be digging a basement or something, and I'm down in the bottom with a grade rod, and we're shooting the grade in the basement. And he'd get a phone call and he'd stop and he'd talk on the phone, and I'm down there like standing around. I'm like, get out of that thing. Let me run it. You can take your phone call while you're shooting grade. Uh, but that's just, and I was doing it today. I got a phone call. We're setting this little boulder wall for these guys, for this homeowner, and my phone rings, and I'm like, I gotta answer this, guys. And so I got some guys standing around doing nothing while I'm on the phone, and it's almost like I need to get out of the machine and let them run it so that the job can get done instead of me being on my phone. But it's just part of the it's just yeah, it's just part of being in business, is like you're just on your phone all the time.
Yeah, you can get, engrossed in your phone in the business. But it's funny when you mentioned the guy and he's telling you like, yeah, he just wants to be there all day. And it's just like, well, the bigger you get, like things will drastically shift.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you want to be in a machine all the time, then just carry on doing what you're doing, because you're not going to be able to do that when you get bigger. Well, I mean, you can. There's probably ways to do it. It's just it's hard. It's hard to stay in the machine when you need to be making decisions about things, and that's really what you're doing all the time. Is you're problem solving and you're making decisions, and Some people can do that while they're in the field working on stuff, and I think probably most people can't. I know I can't.
Yeah.
I can't, man. I'm like one thing at a time, which is it's, yeah.
The one thing at a time. I love I love people with that pure passion and that just desire. We had a guy one time, this is, back in my electrical days, and we were doing some work on a house, and he was retired, and we had some also some demo work to do. And he's like, "Hey, like, I can come with you guys." And we're like, "Okay, well, mind you, he's retired." And we're like, "Well, we
Yeah.
can't really pay you anything." He's like, "Nah, I'm not looking for the." I just he was just wanting to get back into doing something with his hands and feeling
Yeah.
cool, and that was his enjoyment. It was like, hey, if
Yeah.
something else, like, I'll come out for free.
Yeah. There's you know, um there's so many young people, and I don't know how many young people listen to this show, but there is a lot for me. I guess I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like this is something that a lot of people in the trades feel is there's a lot of satisfaction in the work, doing a good job, getting done with the project and looking at it and being like, wow, like we got some stuff done today. Like this is great. My wife was a school teacher for a while, and she's actually a principal now. And you get done at the end of the day, and I'm not talking bad about teaching or being a principal or any of that stuff, but at the end of the day, I think it's a lot harder for people to see that are in those kind of, I don't know, trades, careers, I guess, to see the things that got done that day. Whereas like you can see whether if you're digging a basement that the basement's half done. Like that's doing a good job. Whenever we're doing a job, no, I'm always we I try to think about the guy that's coming in behind us. That's like, to me, that's the biggest thing. Like, you can be working for a GC, um and they think you're doing a great job, or maybe they even think you're doing a bad job. But if the guy who comes in behind you is like, man, like we could follow you guys around from job to job, we'd be like, you guys would make our lives easy. And that is about the best compliment you can get. Um, we get that from time to time, and it's really not, well, I mean, that, we get it from time to time as far as people telling us. I certainly hope it happens pretty much every time we leave a job site for another contractor. But um, yeah, that's like one of the best compliments another contractor can give you is that you made their lives easy after you were finished with your work. So, and I think that with the trades, there's a lot of satisfaction in completing a job and getting something done and being able to see your work that I don't know if you can get from other careers. So
Yeah, I know. What you just said is like such a nice thing to be able to have acknowledged. Just being able to, as contractors and have to work together sometimes and cross over with paths and jobs, and it's just nice to be able to be set up for success, or the next phase just handed off and everything is exactly how you need it to be. And it just really creates, sets the next person up for success. And it really is just a testament to the hard work that your team is doing, the professionalism, and really that's going to be able to be seen not only with other contractors, but by your customers too as well. That's going to be able to cross over, and that's a good representation of brand and business. And when you're talking about marketing and client, it's not just always print and digital. It's just other things that you do in your day to day that are just going to be unseen wins at first, but they're going to carry their weight word, uh, their uh, their weight in gold later on.
Yeah. 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 It's yeah, leaving a job well done for the next guy is really the goal. Or if you're the guy who's finishing the job, leaving it good for the customer. Yep.
So I know you mentioned that you have a passion for problem solving. And can you share a particular project or situation that you encountered that where you found that, hey, I was able to problem solve this situation and it really made a big difference?
Sure. So on this commercial project we were doing, we had to put in a bunch of light pole bases for light poles. And they were like 7 feet in the ground, which is a bit excessive as far as I'm concerned. But we're putting these light pole bases in, and the ground was very gravelly at this particular job site, and we had an auger, and we're augering down. We have a big auger; it's like a 3 foot auger. We're augering down, and we keep just knocking the dirt in, and then as the auger's going around, it's like a bunch of softballs in the bottom, and then when you pull the auger out, all the all the rocks just fall off the auger. So we're like, how are we going to dig this? Now we could have used an excavator to just dig it out, but we decided that we didn't want to do that because when we backfilled these holes for these light pole bases, that we were going to use way too much stone, and we didn't have all the stone budgeted in the job. And we're like, we need to figure out a way to do this. So um, what we have is, I might tie this in with my thing about equipment, but we have on our excavators, we have tilt rotators, and I don't know how many people know what tilt rotators are, but it is an attachment that goes where the bucket attaches to the stick of the excavator. It's an attachment that allows the bucket to tilt 45 degrees in both directions and then to rotate all the way around. So we can like dig backwards, like with our bucket facing away from us. We don't do it often, but a lot of times it's good for backfilling around, trenches or a foundation or something like that. And can also kind of help you dig things that are, you need to reposition your excavator for. But we have a grapple. It's kind of like a clamshell. And I was like, what if we auger this thing down with the auger and we'll get everything loose and we'll get it down. We'll get that thing down as far as we can. We'll plow as much as we can with the auger. And then what if we take that grapple on the excavator and we go down in the bottom and we pull the material out? And it worked. And it probably cut our time in half from what we would have had to do and it saved a lot of material, so we didn't have to be buying so much stone. So we met the spec, we did everything we were supposed to do, and it just saved us a lot of time. I that so that's one thing, that's like a specific example of a kind of out of the box solution that we came up with to solve this problem. But when we're when I look at projects for homeowners, when people call us to solve problems for them, they've had these problems for a long time. They'll have water in their basement, or uh, there's a spot on their yard that's like always wet. And people usually kind of deal with stuff for a while. You get some noise in your car and you kind of like drive it for a while and you're like, well, maybe it'll kind of go away. And then finally something happens and you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I got to get it fixed. And that's what I have found happens with us a lot. When people call us, they've had these problems they've been living with for a while, and they finally are like, we got to get this taken care of. So when I show up to a customer's house or whatever to see what they've got going on. They usually have spent a lot of time thinking about the problem. And so they've come up with all these different solutions and stuff. And that's usually what people will lead with is like, well, so what I'm thinking we could do over here is this and that. And they go through this whole thing. And in the end, I have to stop them and be like, what is the problem that you're having? Like, if you want to tell me the solution to the problem and then you just want me to do the thing that you've come up with, then that's fine. If like that's what you want to spend your money on, then then fine. But what I like to do is I like to ask them what is the problem that you're having? Like summarize it in like one sentence. It's like I'm getting water in my basement. Okay. My yard is wet. Okay. And then for me, I like coming up with a solution to someone's problem because there's 100 different ways you can do stuff. A lot of times I'll ask people like, well, how long have you been living here? Is this water been in your basement? Have you been living here for 6 months and you notice that the wall is just kind of damp? Or have you been living here for 20 years and like you've had multiple instances where you've had water in your basement and like we've really got to get this fixed? Because a lot of new homeowners will get in their house and they'll see some little thing and they'll be like, well, we got to get that fixed. And it's like, well, if you want us to fix it, we can do it. But like we're probably going to be here for like 2 or 3 days fixing this thing and it's going to cost you, I don't know, $10,000. So I need you guys to decide if the problem is worth spending the money on to solve. And if it's not, then maybe we can come up with a solution that's a little bit cheaper. Like maybe we could fix it by you could put gutters on your house to prevent the water from running down next to your basement. Or maybe you need to have the gutters that are coming off of your roof that go into your downspouts. Maybe they just need to be extended. And we could do that for a fraction of the cost. So we see that a lot where people have problems, they've been thinking about them, they come up with a solution, you show up on the job at their house to look at the problem and they've got, I think we should do this and I think we should do that, and it's like, okay, let's just tell me what your problem is and then let me solve the problem, and then I can explain to you how we will solve the problem. And I like walking away from a job having convinced somebody that my idea was good. So yeah,
No, it's really like, being able to present those ideas and have that value, but then be considered the expert is, it's great. If you're able to do that and get your point across, and not only that, but it can make things so much more easier because a person can have in their mind like, hey, I think it should be done this way, and it's like, are you the expert?
yeah, yeah. Everybody's a Google expert,
Right?
but every solution is different, or not, or every problem is a little different. I mean, we take we kind of mix and match solutions. Usually when people have a wet yard, like their yard is flat. And it's like, okay, so how do we solve this? So there's a few different ways to solve it. You can put a sump pump out in their backyard, or you can like cut a swale in, or you can do a French drain, or um, there's a bunch of ways to do it. And sometimes we'll kind of mix and match the different things and come up with a good solution for them. So yeah.
Now, so you've come up with solutions. You've been able to talk about your journey, but I think on the flip side of that, what would you consider your biggest success or maybe a proud moment or two throughout your business journey?
Um, probably probably being able to assemble and keep a group of great guys that work with me, that work for the business. Um, I have four guys. I have four guys right now that work for me, and then I've got a driver who is kind of on call. He works part time, which is really handy when we need someone to drive a truck, and it's like, hey, can you come in? And he's like good working with 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours or whatever. And but I would say that um my guys are smart. They work hard. They're respectful. Uh, they are problem solvers. When I'm on a job site, I frequently ask their opinions on stuff. I'm not out there um with all the answers. I mean, a lot of times we're kind of figuring the thing with the trades is like you're just problem solving all the time. You're constantly problem solving. You're trying to just figure out how to do stuff. You you have you have it looks like this now and I need it to look like that when we're done. So how do we get from point A to point B? We need to come up with a process to make it turn into what we are, what we're trying to achieve. And being able to talk through it with my guys and rely on them and um is I would say that that is a big success of my business is having assembled a good crew. I've got this one guy we hired. He's young, he's like 20. And if sometimes I don't know where he is on a job site once in a while, but he is doing something productive. Like I don't ever think about he's never on his phone. He's not his head isn't in space. He's thinking about the job, and it's like if he doesn't know what to do, he'll just like he'll either ask or he'll find something to do. And that's weird in this day and age, in my opinion. I mean, I'm on my phone a lot. I mean, I'm doing business stuff. It's a little bit different, but um, yeah, it's cool having people like that you can rely on. And I want to keep people like that on our team because it makes work more enjoyable. Uh, customers notice that stuff. I wouldn't necessarily say that they notice that, but what they would notice is when you've got a bunch of guys who aren't paying attention, who are on their phones, who you're constantly having to talk to. Um, yeah, I think that if you're an employee, I think the amount of value that adds to a team is awesome. Is being able to think and find things for yourself to do if you don't know what to do, and just being productive. I would say that that's probably the biggest success that we've had.
I think
Yeah.
that's amazing. Have a good team as a core foundation. Like as part of your success, as part of the journey. Having a great group of people, and being able to have unicorns. Like you got their 20-year-old, and it sounds like he's a unicorn. Like he's doing something productive, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you just have those people. I think what I've seen sometimes with people is that they will put a person in a box and they will say, okay, this is what I needed them for, and it may not be a perfect fit, but yet let me let's just say maybe they're too quick to discard that person. But have you tapped into all the person's abilities, all to what they have to offer? Some of the best people have said, hey, look, I've started out here in the business, but now I'm over here, and this is where I'm really thriving at. This is where I was really able to help grow the business, be an intricate part. And so I think sometimes, not being able to put somebody totally in a box, but by potentially giving them a little bit more training or really seeing where they could, truly fit in. Now, it's not going to work every time, but just exploring that is going to be crucial to success too as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And being willing to do new stuff as an employee and even as an employer,
Yeah,
taking on different kinds of projects that you've never done before. Um, you know, I don't, do you play video games?
I do. I do.
You do. When you get on a new video game and let's say you're, I don't know, playing a first person shooter or something. I used to play a lot of video games when I was younger. Um, did you expect to be good when you first started a game?
No.
No. Like I I and it's the same with me. I would get on and I'd be like, well, I'm not gonna do good. I'm gonna play this and it's gonna take me a few hours and I'll finally get the hang of it. And it's the same thing in business. It's like if you're afraid of doing new stuff, then well, I mean, you shouldn't be afraid of doing new stuff because you're going to be bad at it. Because being bad at stuff is part of the process of being good at stuff. And you have to go through that. Like this project that I was talking about with this Jeep dealership, we are not really going to make any money on the job, but we learned a lot. And one of the things I had this conversation with my guys a bunch of times, and we were all learning how to do this stuff. We know how to do the stuff that we had to do for this job, but it's like reading how to ride a bike and then actually riding a bike. Like you can look at the plans and be like, we can do this. And then when you're in the trenches and you're doing the work, you're like, then you really learn how to do it. And one of the things that I was, I talked to my guys about quite a bit was like, we can't we can't forget the lessons that we learned here. We need to do another job like this one because the next one we do, we're going to knock it out of the park because we know so much more than we did back then. And it's the same thing, as an employee when you're learning something new is just plan on sucking at it for a while and but like uh give yourself some leeway on learning because being bad at something like I said is part of the process of becoming good at something. There aren't too many people who are just like kind of good at whatever they do, and chances are you're probably not one of them. So yeah, learning about your employees and finding out what their strengths are and also being patient with them when they're learning. um I mean, there's a balance. It's in my line of work, um everybody wants to be an operator. How do I be an operator? How do I be an operator? Well, if you want to be an operator, you need to start as a laborer. You need to start as a laborer. And when an opportunity arises to run a piece of equipment, you need to be excited that you have the opportunity to practice, not that you have the opportunity to run the machine. You don't get in it being like, "Oh, great, now I've made it. I'm in the machine. That's what we want." It's no, I'm if I don't show improvement, then I'm not going to be asked to get back in the thing next time because in my line of work, uh, profitability comes from being efficient operating equipment. Um, Anybody can run a shovel. You know, the difference between a good shovel guy and a mediocre shovel guy is the productivity is um it's not as drastic as the productivity between a good operator and a mediocre operator. Um, and getting getting those opportunities can be hard. It can be hard. I know for me, it's hard for me to get out of a machine and let somebody else run a machine because, like, frankly, I'm pretty good at it. And so it's like, it's like being on a sports team, and you're, let's say you're one of the better players on the team, and then you got to get taken out and somebody else goes in, and you're like, man, there's 100 things I would have done differently. But it's like, you got to give them opportunities. It's hard to find, but you know, as a business owner, you got to give people opportunities to learn and space to learn. But as an employee, you got to take the opportunities to learn seriously. Um, and I like to say that, your wages, what you're paid, uh, is a very direct reflection of the difficulty of problem that you can solve for your employer. And that's the same for a business. Um, my employer might be a GC. And if we can solve hard problems for the GC, they will pay us more money. So the opportunities that you get to learn need to be taken seriously, because if you can prove to your employer, or for me as a business owner, a GC or a customer, that you're able to solve hard problems, then they're going to pay you more money. That's basically it. The harder the problem you solve, the more money that you're worth. And you need to be able to start out doing things that you don't know how to do and get better at them. And it's yeah, it's part of the process of learning and getting good at stuff.
Yeah, process and learning will definitely be multiple iterations, getting better as time goes on and adjusting to things. Will constantly be able to help you improve not only yourself but the business and others around you. And I always say there is no I in team. A great team is
Mhm.
I always like to use sports analogies. People that have won championships and have been successful in different sports. Have been able to be a part of a good team, a great group of people. So that's going to be definitely a key part of that success. And now that you have this good, foundation of people around you, I think that'll segue into like our next question is what would be your goals for the next 5 years?
We talked about this before we hit the record button.
Yeah.
What are my goals? Uh, well, I don't really know. I Yeah, I right now, my business, we've got a lot of people that owe us a lot of money, and we also owe a lot of people a lot of money too. And it's like you can't pay your bills until you get paid, and there's only so much borrowing you can do before you're like, I can't do anymore. And frankly, we're pretty close to that. And we're going to be fine, and I'm not worried, but I would like to not have that be a thing that comes up. Um, well, I mean, it's always going to come up. That's what more financial stability. Growing our business's reputation. Um, I mean, I feel like we do. I feel like we do a very good job with what we do, and we take pride in what we do. And growing the business's reputation is important. Um, One thing that I would like to do personally is I would like to build a house in the next 5 years. My wife and I have owned some land for a few years, and we've we've got it paid for, and we're working towards building a house. And right now, the business is absorbing a lot of money. Equipment's expensive, and keeping guys busy is expensive, and getting to a point where we can maybe pull the trigger on that is definitely a goal of mine for the next 5 years. Um, yeah, just continuing to improve the business's reputation, doing a quality job, and kind of keeping ourselves, financially stable is a goal. So I don't know if that's a real good answer, but that's what I'm at right now.
No, it's you have you have a goal in mind, and sometimes it just takes that little bit of that extra brain power to, like, I know it's in there. Everybody just have to get it out. But no, that's good. Like, being able to have that what you want to accomplish, and with your family and your wife, and I know the kids will probably enjoy that too. So that's great. Something to work for, and then as you move on, you'll have goals to just continue to get better in the business, to continue to streamline things, and to keep taking those everyday lessons learned and applying them into making a better tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'd like to get a bunch of my equipment paid off. That'd be nice. That's a good goal to have. That definitely help with things.
That would help some things out, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Equipment's expensive, guys. Like, a carpenter. Listen, I'm not a carpenter, and I'm not trying to, like, you know, uh, talk bad about carpenters, but my gut tells me that as a carpenter, you probably could have a very, very complete setup of tools for, I don't know, let's say $50,000. Like, that seems like a pretty reasonable number. You could probably just about get everything you're gonna need. It's like, yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I mean, for example, we have a Cat 315 excavator, and the tilt rotator attachment we put on was about $65,000, and that's just one piece of equipment. And then you add, we've got three excavators, we've got three skid steers, we've got a dozer, we've got three dump trucks, we've got trailers, we've got attachments, we've got all kinds of stuff. And yeah, everything's expensive, and it's like, man alive, you feel like you're doing good, and then you have to put an undercarriage on a dozer, and it's like $25,000, and you're like, man alive, we could get out of this having to deal with this stuff. But I mean, it's all part of the business. It's all baked into the prices, but it doesn't feel good when those things pop up. It's like being a homeowner, and then you got to replace your roof. You're like, yeah, well, I knew it was coming, but I'm not really ready for it. Yeah.
No, like, definitely, yeah. We had to get our roof, and I was like, oh, I was so not ready for this.
Yeah. Yeah. At least you're good for the next 30 years, 25
Right?
years. Yeah.
I
It help it
mine.
make it makes doing it a little easier.
Definitely. Well, Landon, thanks so much for joining the podcast. We appreciate all these insights and this helpful information. If anybody wants to reach out, can you let them know where they can find you at?
I spend a lot of time on Instagram. We are at bear_excavation, BEHR_excavation on Instagram. I've got a website, bearexcavation.com. You guys can check us out there. I've got a Facebook page. I don't really spend much time on Facebook. I spend a lot of time interacting with other dirt guys on Instagram. So we've got a bunch of I've got a bunch of reels that we've made that are kind of some of the projects we do. I just do them on my phone. Yeah, it's kind of fun. So yeah, I would say those are the two places. We've got our website, and then we've got the Instagram if you guys want to check that out.
All right, well, excellent. Everybody, make sure you go check them out, and we appreciate you joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. This was fun.
No problem. Well, everyone, that's the end of this episode. Please make sure to tune into the next one. Have a great one.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blueprint Boost for Contractors. We hope you found today's insights and strategies valuable for your contracting business. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and please leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring content that truly matters.